So there is a new study out about school violence and bullying, and King 5's Dr. Wendy Sue Swanson, a pediatrician at the Everett Clinic, is here to talk about that this morning, known to all of us as Seattle Mama Doc. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Joyce.
So we don't know exactly what provoked this student to pick up this gun, but we do know that a lot of students say that this child was bullied. What happens when a child is bullied?
Well, we know bullying is ongoing, and of course, there's been lots more focus in the last decade, really, on bullying, but the rates of bullying, or ultimately injuries that come from them, aren't entirely known, but aren't necessarily going down. We know the effects of bullying are serious. It can affect a child's ability to function in school. We know it increases the risk for depression, for having sleep challenges, and certainly self-esteem problems. And we also really know that bullying tends to occur more when adults are not around. Now, one of the things that I'm here to talk about is a new study that was released earlier this week in pediatrics, looking at the number and amount of injuries that kids incur in the school setting. So they're not injured more at school than elsewhere. About 10 to 25% of the reasons that kids go to an emergency room happen from injuries that occur in school. But 10% of injuries overall, are happening there. 90,000 children go to the emergency room every single year because of injuries that occur at school. I mean, that's a really big number. And some of them can be mild. So 40% of the injuries this is from 2001 to 2008, were kind of cuts and bruises that required care in the emergency department. 10%, though, were brain injuries, and over 10% were broken bones. Now,
whoa.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to remember, these were injuries serious enough to send a child to the emergency department. That means a child either right from school or went home and a family member said, we got to get to the ER. It doesn't really capture cyberbullying, emotional turmoil, and depression, anxiety, and other kinds of injuries that really do occur because of bullying.
And so it's the bumps and bruises that you maybe don't warrant an emergency room visit, but maybe your kid comes home with some bumps and bruises that you should be paying attention to that too.
No, absolutely. The study also showed a couple of different things. Middle school students are more likely to be bullied and injured in some way than high school students. Boys in the school setting are more likely to be injured than girls, but outside, girls are more likely to be injured than boys. So we don't really understand all of that, but I think it's a great reminder that our schools are a really safe place to be, but how our schools deal with bullying, what kind of anti-bullying policies they have, and how we as parents advocate and react and check in with our kids is exceptionally important for keeping them safe.
So what can parents do? What can we do to protect our kids?
Number one, if your child is starting to want to avoid school in the middle school years, even grade school, or in high school, check in with them. If they come home with unexplained cuts or bruises, or they start really just describing being very unhappy at school, or even having things like stomach aches and headaches, ask them about their school environment. Ask directly if
Kids
they feel...
don't like to talk, teenagers, though.
Yeah.
Generally.
That's right.
They don't want to talk about
Well, I think we have to be pretty proactive about keeping an ongoing dialogue about, that bullying is not okay, that if someone is making a child feel terrible or being intimidated, that they really we want to empower them to stay really calm, to avoid conflict, and to make sure that we're checking in with the school. That, again, this bullying, cyberbullying, emotional bullying, and physical bullying, those acts of aggression that are sending 90,000 kids to the emergency room, are often happening without supervision. So ensuring that we are thinking about how our schools are protecting our children, and we as parents are advocating. I mean, in the same issue of pediatrics this week, there was another study that asked high school athletes, how many times were they bullied during their sports career in high school? 3/4 of them said that they were, and when you asked 3/4 of those athletes who it was, 1/3 of them said it was the coach. So we have to really think about what is the model that we're, providing as parents, as coaches, and how can we really check in?
We should talk more about that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it next week. Yeah,
okay,
sounds great.
Dr. Wendy Sue Swanson, we're going to put this online at king5.com under HealthLink.
We will.
Dr. Wendy Sue, thank you.